3 minutes and 47 seconds ago, something happened, and no one was prepared. The Senate hearing room, December 3, 2025, afternoon. Everything was normal. Sterile lights, polished tables, flags, staff shuffling papers. An ordinary day. Senators speaking, FBI Director Patel responding. Calm, controlled, everything predictable. An hour and a half passed like this. Then Senator John Kennedy pointed to something, a small white piece of paper, one that Patel had pulled from his own pocket. There was a single word on it: hold. Kennedy asked a question, a single, simple question, and that question shattered everything. If you're new to this channel, subscribe now and hit the bell icon, because what you're about to watch isn't just a hearing, it's a revelation. You'll see how Kennedy cornered Patel in 3 minutes, what's behind that hold note, and why Patel couldn't answer. Watch until the end because every second matters. Kennedy didn't rush things in Louisiana. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't try to put on a show, because Kennedy understands a fundamental truth about power in Washington. A silent question delivered at the right moment can be more devastating than any shouted accusation. For those who underestimate him based on his slow Southern accent, this mistake is usually made only once. Because behind that pace lies a Yale law graduate and Oxford scholar who knows exactly when to tighten the vice and how long to let the silence do its work. He waited for 90 minutes. He let Patel grow comfortable in that rhythm of unanswered answers. And then, at 2:37 p.m., he moved. "Director Patel," Kennedy said, leaning toward the microphone, "I'd like to discuss that hold note with you." The room shifted instantly. The atmosphere became electric. Journalists stopped writing. Staff looked up suddenly because everyone knew. The hold note was no simple matter. It was something captured by cameras, seen by millions, and never explained. And now Kennedy was putting it on the table. Patel's face didn't visibly flinch. He had been asked about the hold note before. He was prepared. "Senator, as I stated in my earlier testimony, that note was a personal reminder." A standard defense, a rehearsed answer. But it wasn't enough for Kennedy. "I'm not interested in your previous testimony," Kennedy said, revealing the steel beneath the politeness. "I'm interested in what you didn't tell us." This was the turning point, the moment the hearing shifted from procedural to personal. Kennedy wasn't debating policy. He was challenging the cover-up. Patel blinked twice. Kennedy rested his hand on a thick blue folder, thick enough to signal preparation, not improvisation. "Director Patel," Kennedy said, his voice calm but sharp, "what exactly was written in that hold note?" The answer didn't come quickly, because details require specificity, and specificity limits room for maneuver. "That's hard to say, Senator. The note was a personal reminder." Kennedy didn't flinch. "I didn't ask you about the composition. I asked you what it said." Patel looked at the lawyers sitting behind him. Both were dressed in dark suits. Both were acutely aware the conversation had shifted from surveillance to disclosure. "I can't give you a definitive answer without reviewing our internal database." Kennedy leaned forward slightly, not aggressively, but deliberately. "You're the director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and are you telling me you don't even roughly know what the note you pulled out of your own pocket says?" The phrase "pulled out of your own pocket" didn't sit well because it implied ownership, and ownership implied responsibility. "Without the proper context," Patel began, but Kennedy cut him off. "Let me give you some context." He referred to the C-SPAN footage, real, documented, undeniable. December 3, 2025, 2:37 p.m. You pulled a note out of your pocket on live C-SPAN. Millions were watching. That note said "hold" in all caps, underlined. Is that correct? Silence. 5 full seconds. Patel waited. Then he admitted, "Yes, that was my note." Kennedy let that sink in. A pause. Then he continued. "That note contained an order in FBI jargon. Hold. What does hold mean at the FBI, Director Patel?" Patel tried to shield his answer with procedural language, but Kennedy's patience was measured and limited. "I didn't ask about procedures. I asked what it meant." Patel admitted, In general usage, it means to halt an operation, to put an investigation on hold. That's when Kennedy opened the blue file, and the truth began to emerge. He pulled out the first document, an anonymous tip from within the FBI, dated December 6th, sent to the Washington Post. Its authenticity had been verified. Kennedy read, "In November, Director Patel ordered us to put certain investigations on hold. When we asked which investigations, we were not allowed to see the list. He just said, put them on hold." Kennedy placed the document on the table. "Is this tip accurate, Director Patel?" Patel spoke of standard interagency coordination, but Kennedy pressed harder. "Yes or no, Director? Did you put certain investigations on hold?" Patel chose his words carefully, but he didn't give a clear yes or no, and Kennedy let that stand, because evasion was an answer too. Then Kennedy pulled out the second document, and this was the heaviest bombshell. "This bears your signature, Director Patel, dated February 3, an FBI internal memorandum." Kennedy began reading. "All files related to the Epstein investigation are to be transferred to headquarters. No field office may initiate or continue an investigation without headquarters approval. All witness interviews are suspended." Kennedy slowly placed the memorandum on the table. Not for effect, deliberately. "You," he said quietly, "effectively put the Epstein investigation on hold. You stopped it with your signature." The room fell completely silent, because this was no longer a theoretical debate. It was a documented fact, with Patel's own signature. Kennedy pulled out the third document. "And here's the interesting part," he said. "On the day you signed that memorandum, February 3, there was a meeting at the White House. It's in the visitors' logs. Entry 9:15. Exit 10:45. Meeting duration 1 hour 30 minutes. Kennedy looked at Patel. "And exactly 2 hours after that meeting, at 12:47, you signed the memorandum halting the Epstein investigation." This timing was no coincidence. Kennedy knew that. The room knew it. And the expression on Patel's face said it wasn't a coincidence. "What was discussed at that meeting, Director?" Patel fell back on his standard response. "Interagency coordination on various issues." Kennedy cut him off. "I'm asking if the Epstein investigation was discussed. Yes or no?"
Patel couldn't answer, because saying yes would be an admission of guilt, saying no would be a lie, and silence was a confession. That's when Kennedy made his final move. He stood up, a rare sight in court proceedings, and held up the fourth document. "This is a phone recording," Kennedy said. "February 23rd, 10:47 p.m. A call made from your personal cell phone to a New York law firm, Kasowitz Benson Torres." Kennedy paused. He let the impact sink in. "Do you know who this firm represents, Director Patel?" Patel said he had spoken with many lawyers during his tenure. Kennedy: "This firm represents Donald Trump, and according to this recording, you spoke with someone there for 17 minutes, 3 weeks after you started your position, and 2 days before those 47 documents were reclassified." Kennedy leaned forward. "Now, one more time, did anyone connected to Trump ask you to bury the Epstein files?" Share this video everywhere, because the timeline Kennedy has laid out is undeniable, and people need to know the truth. The silence that followed was not procedural. It was existential, because the issue was no longer about document counts. It was about loyalty versus obligation. "Senator, that call was about a separate matter," Patel began, but Kennedy cut him off with a metaphor from Louisiana. "If it looks like a duck, walks like a duck, and quacks like a duck, it's probably not a chicken. You reclassified documents that were about to expose powerful people. You did this after speaking with Trump's lawyers, and now you want us to accept that this was a coincidence?" Patel said he was uncomfortable with the implication that his integrity was being called into question, but Kennedy didn't frame it as an implication. He framed it as a sequence of events. "You spoke with Trump's lawyers," Kennedy said, enunciating every word. "The documents were reclassified. You refused to give a clear answer. These are facts, and the American people can draw their own conclusions." He closed with the final question. The tone turned from inquisitive to definitive. "Was there an order in that hold memo to halt the Epstein investigation? Yes or no?" Patel said he could not comment on classified materials in an open setting. Kennedy, I'm not asking about the content, I'm just asking about its existence. Is there such an order? Yes or no? Patel refused to answer. Kennedy turned not to the witness, but to the camera. He addressed millions directly. The FBI director just refused to deny that the hold memo halted the Epstein investigation, Kennedy said. He could have said no. He didn't. He left that sentence hanging in the air, because that sentence no longer belonged to Kennedy. It was the American people's question, waiting for an answer. Thank you for watching the video all the way through. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications because this story doesn't end here. Kennedy said there are more documents and more questions to be asked, and I'll continue to keep you updated on every development here. The rest of the hearing proceeded with technical monotony, but it no longer mattered because a timeline had been established in 3 minutes. A note had been captured, a memorandum had been signed, a phone call had been recorded, a White House meeting had been documented, and a denial had been entered into the public record. 3 minutes. 3 minutes that turned a routine hearing into a national breaking point. Did Kennedy shout? No. Did he accuse? No. He just laid out the documents, he listed the dates, and he waited for Patel to respond. No response came, and the fact that it didn't said it all.